Hi everyone, it's Evangeline here at etrailer, and today we'll be taking a look at our Swagman XC2 Bike Platform Rack right here on our 2020 Ford Edge. So the Swagman XC2 is an affordable platform rack. It's when you don't want a hanging rack because you just get too much sway between your bikes. You want something a little sturdier, something that really holds down your bikes, but you don't want to pay extra for features you may not want or need. So this is pretty much your basic necessities bike rack, does what you need it to do. But first we're going to take a look, well in this video we're going to take a look at this bike rack just to see if it's the right fit for your bicycles and your Ford Edge. So first off, we want to talk about how our bike is mounted to this bike rack. So we have wheel loops on each end. That's really what our bike's wheels are resting on and holding it in. But what's really holding it down and securing it is this frame out. So notice how it ratchets down to secure your bike by the frame. And that also means that when you want to take your bike off, it's very simple. You just remove that frame out. So you press that button, you lift that up. You do have two different choices here. You can either just tilt this away and then maneuver around your frame mount, or in this case, since the Ford Edge sits kind of close to your bike rack, you can just take these off completely. You can even take this pin out and then just move this down, and just like that, it's just a little hap skip jump and you are ready to go for a bike ride. So that's what's nice about this style of a bike rack. It makes it very simple to mount and dismount your bikes. Not much to it. I'm just going to leave this bike over to the side so that we can take a closer look at the bike rack itself. So this goes up, goes back down. We'll leave it down to take a look at our hatch access. So if your bikes are on the bike rack, you cannot open your hatch. You will have to take your bike rack off. But note now how we have all the clearance we need in order to reach into our vehicle and grab our waters, our helmets, our bags, without having to take the bike rack off. So that takes a little bit more effort than bike racks that tilt away, but it's nice to know what your options are when it comes to this bike rack. So I'm just gonna leave this up here just to show off how the pins work. So they're secured by these pins with ball cams on the end. So they just push into that in order to secure. Then you have these hooks. So they fit over your bike rack or over your bike rack's mast, and they just ratchet down. So because of those notches there, you can't lift it back up, which is another security feature for your bike. So this does not have locks. If you did want to lock your bikes, I do recommend picking up a cable lock. That might help you with security, but they are not integrated into this bike rack. Alright, we'll take some measurements with our Ford Edge, because no matter what accessory you have on your hitch, it's usually going to add some kind of length. So measuring from our bumper right over here to the end of the bike rack, which is these wheel hoops, it sits at 18 inches of length added to the back of our car. Very, very compact. This is actually what I would go for if I had a really small garage and I was really worried about there being enough space behind my car. You only have 18 inches added. So whenever you back into your garage or try to park into a tight spot, don't forget that measurement. Another measurement I'm going to take a look at is ground clearance. So I'm going to measure ground clearance right here where those hoops are. That's the furthest point of the bike rack. It sits at 17 inches. And just to compare, let's measure underneath the shank. That's 11 inches. So ground clearance is important for your Ford Edge, especially if you have your hitch hanging down kind of like we have here, just because as you go up your steep and inclines like your driveways or your hills, your front will go up, your back will go down, and you will have to be conscious of ground clearance. Now, because the Swagman XC is so short and so compact, it's not going to be that big of an issue. It is still helpful though that it has that slight incline, so your bikes are still sitting a little bit higher up off the ground, giving you more ground clearance than a straight up shank. Okay, now what if you are not planning on taking your bikes out and you kind of just want to store your bike rack. What you can do is you can move this into the storage position. When you are driving around town, I recommend just leaving it with these arms down, just because it's not going to make so much of a difference to store it. But if you want to keep it inside your trunk, you can fold these arms up to make it more compact. I'll guide you through that process. So remember those pins that we used earlier for the center mass? We're going to pull those pins on the arms. And then we're going to lift these arms up and then secure them again with the pins we just took out. So there's one, and then this one goes up here, and there's two. Oh, also notice how we have these wheel loops. Make sure that your wheel loops are secure before you fold them up so that they don't slide down. These are adjustable to accommodate different wheelbases because that's where your tires go. So the maximum tire width this loop can carry is up to 3 inches, and the maximum wheelbase is up to 52 inches. So if you have bikes with really long wheelbases, this actually might be a good option for you. So that secures that, just like that. So you can now see how compact that is. This is actually a good place to take a look for measurements for closest point. You can see how from the bumper to the bike rack, it sits at 5 inches of distance. So plenty of clearance as well between our bike rack. Let's also talk about how it fits on the back of our vehicle. Now notice, because it is so small, it's not going to cover your rear windows. It's not going to cover your tail lights. With it folded up like this, it is in line with our backup camera. So that's why I recommend having these down. That way your backup camera and your license plate will be fully visible with this bike rack on. So not going to be an issue on the road. Of course, they are going to be covered if you have your bikes on there, but that's just normal for any bike rack. Let's talk about how this fits into our hitch. So we have an 1.25 inch shank with a 2-inch hitch adapter on our bike rack. That adapter comes with the bike rack, so if you have the 1.25 inch hitch receiver, which is class 2 for your Ford Edge, or if you have the 2-inch hitch receiver, whichever one you have, this bike rack is going to fit with it. I have a 2-inch hitch receiver on right now, and this comes with an anti-rattle bolt and a clip. So that is not locking, but it does help secure it. You can also use a socket wrench. That's what I do, a ratchet wrench or a socket wrench with a 3/4 inch socket. Just makes it so much easier to tighten down and install in your hitch. It's very lightweight. You can do it by yourself. I can lift this with one hand very easily. That's why it's so light and easy to store. But anyways, with that anti-rattle bolt, that's securing our adapter. And let's take a look at that. So I'm going to shake it by the shank over here. And notice how, even as I shake it harder, I'm mainly just moving the car at this point. Some people were worried that because it has an adapter, that'll still have some rattle. But as you can see, it's a good fit right over there. So, with a 35-pound weight capacity, as well as a 3-inch tire width, I would say that my personal thoughts about this bike rack, as you can see, it just has the bare necessities. It's a very minimalist bike rack. If you don't need extra features, you're not interested in paying for extra features, this is pretty much all you need to take your bike from one point to another. We also have some slightly affordable bike racks with more features. If you want more features, you might be interested in the Hollywood Racks Destination 2 bike rack. Also lightweight, also compact, but gives you a slightly nicer frame mount, and it's easier to add a lock set to that. But this one works really well, especially if you're worried about weight and space. So this was a look at our Swagman XC2 2-bike platform rack right here on our 2020 Ford Edge.
This is our test course. Let's start with the slalom. This shows side-to-side action, such as turning corners or evasive maneuvering. Then, onto our alternating speed bumps. This shows twisting action, such as hitting curbs, potholes, road debris, or even uneven pavement. Last of all, the solid speed bumps. This shows up and down action, such as driving through a parking lot or parking garage, or driving in and out of a driveway.